Lord, as I stand in the hush of this morning, poised at the edge where yesterday's certainties thin and new paths rise before me like a river forking in the dimness, I confess that the shadow of decision looms heavy upon my soul, pressing me to reckon with the weight of every choice entrusted to my hand. I come before you not as one possessing all understanding, but as one yearning for your wisdom, a pilgrim kneeling at the threshold of your refuge, seeking sanctuary beneath the shelter of your steadfast presence. For you alone are the strong tower whose shadow becomes the gentle covering, where we may linger and discern without fear. Even as the winds of uncertainty stir about me, and the valley lies veiled in mist, I know that you are the one who lights the path, the shepherd who calls me by name and leads me toward green pastures, even when the way is hidden and every step trembles with the unknown. In moments such as these, where every path seems shadowed by questions, and every crossing holds the hush of eternity's breath, I turn my gaze from the noise of my anxious thoughts to the sanctuary of your dwelling, trusting that you speak peace into every crossroad and whisper direction in the secret place where my spirit meets your spirit. Even when I recoil beneath the shadow of my own limitations, when the wilderness within groans with doubt and hesitation, I remember that you have not abandoned us to wander alone, for your mercy is a rock beneath my feet, and your nearness is my song in the valley of decision. Let your wisdom descend as oil upon my head, and your presence flow as living water to my soul. Let me hear your voice above the shaking of the earth and the surging of every lesser desire. If you are standing in a place of uncertainty this morning, if the shadow feels long, and the silence heavy, know that you are not forsaken amid the choosing, for the Lord himself is your stronghold, and your shield the light that cannot be extinguished, the refuge that will not fail. Even when the horizon withholds its promise, I trust that the one who holds the universe also sustains my trembling heart. And as I linger in his shadow, I find that the threshold of decision becomes not a place of fear, but a dwelling of holy communion and unwavering peace. Lord, in the wilderness between longing and revelation, I come before you in a silence that feels weightier than words, for in this quiet I sense both the barrenness of waiting and the hidden fullness you have prepared for those who endure beneath your gaze. Before petition rises upon my lips, and before my heart attains the clarity to ask, I dwell in the holy hush between storms, where only the soft whisper of your spirit moves, and where all striving must yield to the majesty of your presence. Even when the wilderness grows vast, and the shadows stretch across the plain of my understanding, I know that you are in this desert with me, your nearness as sure as the morning dew upon hidden stones, your faithfulness unwavering, while I tarry at the edge of your mysteries. Lord, let me not chafe beneath the weight of holy silence, for it is here that my soul is refined, and my desires are sifted like chaff on the wind, until only thirst for your wisdom endures. We wait as those who trust in the slow unveiling of light, who linger on the edge of still waters as the hush before dawn prepares our hearts for your appearing. And as we bear the silence, may we count it not affliction, but the invitation to deeper dwelling in the shadow of your wings. Even when the world rushes to fill the void with frantic noise or hurried judgments, I trust that you call us apart, beckoning us to the silent places where you speak not through earthquake or fire, but in the gentlest murmur that steadies the trembling of the heart. Let me find courage, Lord, to sit in the wilderness, where your presence is its own answer, your shadow my fortress, your silence my teacher. Let the lessons wrought by waiting root themselves well within the soil of my spirit, so that in the fullness of time when I do ask, I shall ask not out of desperation or unrest, but out of surrender to the wisdom only your presence provides. For in the stillness of wilderness, I discover again that you are my refuge and my stronghold, my rock unshaken even when all is hushed. A holy silence that settles upon the soul like the first light breaking across a barren land. Lord, it is in the quiet trembling of my spirit, when I feel most inadequate to chart my own course, that I come before you and lay my petitions at your feet, longing that your presence might become the lamp unto my weary path, and the pillar that steadies every uncertain step. Even as I confess my limitations and see the vastness of the journey before me, the wilderness of unknowns and the winding of the hidden trail, I know that you are not a distant observer, but the steadfast companion whose wisdom enfolds and directs every movement of those who seek your face. I do not desire fleeting glimpses of direction, Lord, but the abiding radiance of your countenance, that my heart might discern your voice amid the swirling winds, and my desires be ordered not by the shifting plagues of fear, but by the holy light of your delight. Let me not lean unto my own understanding, nor rush among the shadows of my anxieties, but rather trust in the sufficiency of your Spirit, who anoints my eyes to behold that which only divine discernment reveals. If you are burdened by the weight of decision, today, if confusion or apprehension clouds the horizon, come, and let us draw near in holy petition together. For the Lord is our refuge, and our strong tower, the wellspring of wisdom, that shall not run dry, even as we thirst for the clarity that only eternity's perspective affords. It is not the straining of anxious voices, nor the counsel of many that confirms the path of righteousness, but the gentle whisper of the shepherd who leads with both rod and staff, drawing us close, not only to answer our questions, but to hold our hearts in the fullness of his presence. Let your wisdom descend, Lord, as oil poured fresh upon our heads, holding every thought captive to your peace, every longing captive to your counsel, every fear surrendered to your abiding shadow. We ask, Lord, that you go before us as the cloud by day and the fire by night, directing each choice with mercy and goodness, and granting us the courage to walk where your Spirit leads. So let me rest sheltered beneath the wings of your unfailing promise, assured that no step taken in your presence shall falter, as my heart finds its anchorage in the certainty that the path illumined by your wisdom leads ever closer to still waters and the dwelling place you have prepared. Lord, when the winds of confusion gather and the thunder of anxious choices rises as a storm pressing against my heart, I come before you seeking shelter in the fortress of your everlasting presence, for you alone are my rock steadfast, and unmoved as the tempests assail the fragile walls of my own understanding. I know even as every shadow deepens, and the valleys of decision lie tangled with brambles and unseen snares, that you are my refuge and stronghold, drawing me into your indestructible dwelling, where the din of fear is hushed beneath the shield of your salvation. In the grip of fearful crossroads, when the world trembles with its own uncertainties, and my spirit wavers beneath the weight of outcomes unknown, I call upon your discernment, Lord, not as a fleeting shield, but as a refuge that surrounds my mind and steadies my trembling hands with the quiet assurance of your sovereignty. Even when the storm howls and the waves of worry beat upon the fortress walls, I trust that your wisdom is not overcome, for your voice thunders deeper than the maelstrom, and your counsel emerges calm as the still waters that flow beneath the surface of every tempest. Let me, Lord, abide in the high tower of your perspective, perceiving not only the dangers that lurk in the darkness, but the path of deliverance you carve through every wilderness, your light piercing the fog, and your hand guiding with gentle authority. We stand together, Lord, your children, gathered in the midst of swirling winds, lifting our heads toward the sanctuary of your dwelling, knowing that discernment is the anointing that fortifies our resolve, the oil poured over souls assailed by doubt, the holy safeguard against all deception and despair. Help me, Lord, to fix my eyes upon your promises and to let every trembling question collapse at the feet of your eternal wisdom. For you are the wall that cannot crumble, the shadow in which we rest when the fury of circumstance threatens to undo us. Even when I am pressed on every side, you are my keeper. Even when fear clamors at the threshold, your presence is the peace that guards my inmost being. And so I trust, O Lord, that in every fearful hour when the crossroads fracture and the heavens seem to darken, you remain the fortress that shall never fall, and within your courts I find that discernment itself becomes the song of deliverance, echoing after the storm. Lord, I come before you seeking not merely the counsel drawn from my own finite wisdom, nor the fleeting guidance shaped by the world's anxious calculations, but the holy anointing that flows from your Spirit, the oil that sanctifies the uncertain path and breathes divine understanding into every hidden recess where human thought falters. Even as I confess how small I am before the mysteries of your ways, I acknowledge that you are the fountain of wisdom, unsearchable, the heavenly architect who bestows insight through holy visitation. And I yearn to be marked by your presence, set apart not by intellect, but by the touch of your Spirit that teaches and renews. Lord, let your anointing descend upon my heart this day, as oil poured fresh, softening all that is hardened by pride or anxiety, sealing my soul for your direction, and awakening within me that holy attentiveness which hearkens even to your softest whisper above the chaos of human striving. I know that your Spirit is not constrained by what I cannot see, that your counsel moves through shadowed valleys and across sunlit fields, bringing discernment that lifts me from the narrow vision of the self and sets my feet upon your broader way. We trust, Lord, that as we ask, your Spirit will intercede where our words are faltering, and our questions clamor for answers, anointing each petition with the fragrance of surrender and faith, weaving your wisdom deep into the marrow of our seeking. Let me remember that your oil is the sign of both healing and commissioning, that in moments of indecision, I am not abandoned to wander the wilderness alone, for your anointing is the hidden mark of favor shaping each step I take toward your will. Lord, let your counsel be the gentle oil that calms the tremors of my soul, a refuge of light where confusion dissolves, a stronghold in the hour of wavering when the way is not clear. Even when the answers unfold slowly, when I must walk by faith and not by what appears to be before me, let me trust that your Spirit is leading, anointing each choice with the peace that surpasses understanding. You are the keeper and the guide, the wisdom that lights my darkness, the breath that hovers over the wild waters and calls order from the formless deep. And so, with the oil of anointing resting upon me, I move forward, quieted by the promise that your Spirit, not the wisdom of the world or the sway of fear, will deliver me into the haven of your perfect will. A fragrance of sacred counsel, attending every step along the path of light. Lord, I come before you in the mingled hush and thunder of my inner landscape, for there are days when my thoughts arise fierce as storm winds, and fears gather like clouds that darken noon into restless dusk. Yet in the midst of turbulence, I cling to your enduring presence as the ancient mariners clung to the steadfast rock. Even when my soul bends beneath the driving rain of questions, when my mind churns with uncertainty, and the tug-of-war between hope and dread leaves me breathless, I know that you, O Lord, are the refuge who rides upon the wings of the wind, yet dwells in the secret place, bidding me seek your stillness within the eye of every tempest. Let me not mistake this waiting for abandonment, but recognize the delicate mystery that you are closest. When I am weakest, your spirit brooding over the waters of my chaos, preparing that holy moment when light will break forth clear and unassailable. We trust that the storms which trouble us most are never beyond your sovereign hand, for you are the strong tower shielding us from ruin, and the voice that can still every raging sea with a single breath of mercy. And even as our wrestling persists, your promise upholds us with unyielding strength. Lord, teach me to wait with expectation, not as one who counts the hours in torment, but as one who learns to listen for the gentle whisper above the thunder finds rest beneath your shadow, and discovers the sacred ground where striving gives way to the peace that passes all understanding. Let your presence be the lamp in my night, the fire by which my trembling heart is warmed, the guiding light, revealing the next step out of the valley towards still waters. Even when the world would tempt me to move ahead in haste, let your spirit anchor me in the holy patience that opens the way for true discernment, transforming the storm into holy silence, and my wrestling into restful surrender before you. So I rest, O Lord, beneath your wings outstretched over the gathering clouds, assured that the one who governs the storm shall also speak divine light into every decision, leaving a calm upon my spirit like morning dew in a valley bathed in peace. Lord, I come before you as a sojourner moving through valleys shadowed with bewilderment, and over heights dazzling with hope, knowing that your presence alone can chart the course where my sight falters, and my resolve is worn thin by the ascent's steepness. Even when I dwell in the hollows hemmed in by troubles pressing like darkened thickets, and even when I stand upon summits where the future spreads bright and fierce before me, I know that you are the one who prepares the path, the shepherd who goes before the guide, whose footprints leave peace in their wake. Let me be yielded to your voice, O Lord, neither deafened by the echoes of the world's opinions, nor distracted by the lure of my own hurried judgments, for you alone bring forth springs in the wilderness, and set stepping stones within the torrent, giving clarity, where the mist conceals both pitfalls and promise. Let your hand rest heavy, with blessing cupping me in moments of indecision, and carrying me through those chambers of waiting, where only faith can see the narrow way opening into green pastures beyond. We trust, Lord, that you are both the one who calls and the one who makes a way, hemming us in before and behind, weaving protection through shadows and pouring light across our waywardness, until every wandering yields to the steady progress of your grace. Even when our hearts falter or questions multiply, I know your spirit whispers in the cool uprising of morning, and the hush of nightfall alike reminding us that obedience is the song of surrender, and discernment the melody that leads us onward in hope. Let me take each step as one committed wholly to your counsel, neither rushing ahead with presumption, nor lagging behind in fear, but walking with the quiet assurance that you prepare a place not only at the journey's end, but in each unfolding moment. I ask, Lord, let your voice order my days with wisdom, and let my feet move only where your peace has already gone, for you are the keeper of my soul, the deliverer whose nearness is both shield and compass. So I rest even as I rise in the certainty that the God who prepares my path in valley and ascent will not forsake me at any turning, and that the journey itself becomes a holy dwelling where your presence is both destination and guide. Lord, I come before you weary from the burden of anxious, striving for too often I have clung to control, as if my grasp could steady the waves or hold back the night. Yet you remind me that at the mercy seat your presence is invitation, and your grace a summons to holy surrender. Even as I confess how my thoughts swirl restless as the wind over troubled waters, I know that you bid me release each concern, every fear and vain solution, laying them down on the altar, where beneath your wings, the anxious wrestling of my soul finds true Sabbath. Let me, Lord, approach you not with the frantic energy of self-reliance, but as a child seeking refuge in the strong tower of your goodness, trusting that your wisdom can do what the striving of my flesh never could. Even when the temptation to orchestrate outcomes returns fierce as fire, I ask you to remind me that deliverance is yours and rest is found not in strategy, but in yieldedness where desire is purified, and every false security gives way to the assurance of your sovereignty. We trust, Lord, that the mercy seat is not a place of shame, but a dwelling of welcome where the oil of your compassion soothes every bruise of disappointment, and the shadow of your nearness draws us into a stillness that no storm can trouble. Let me pour out what is anxious, afraid, unresolved, and let me receive what is steadfast, radiant, unshakable, for you are the anchor in the valley, the light that breaks the hold of night, the rock upon which all striving ceases at last. Even in the moments when surrender feels as vulnerable as the wild deer on the open plain, or as exposing as standing unhidden before your searching gaze, I know that it is there in the undivided offering of my heart that I become most free and most found. Lord, help me to choose the narrow path of trust, to trade every burden for the garment of praise, to rise from your mercy seat, clothed not in my own answer, but in the quiet certainty of your faithfulness. So as the hush of your presence settles over every anxious place in me, I surrender with open hands, resting in your shelter as evening light settles softly upon still waters, assured that all control surrendered to you will become peace, a peace kept in the fortress of your unfailing love. If you are weary this day, drawn thin by the demands of decisions that press as burdens too heavy for frail shoulders, let your heart remember that there is a dwelling place where striving ceases and anxious shadows flee. Under the loving expanse of his wings, refuge is always found. Lord, I come before you confessing my tendency to run ahead to weigh every outcome on the scales of my own wisdom, when you invite me instead to abide, to take shelter in the nearness of your presence, where every worry meets your sustaining grace. Even as uncertainty looms upon every threshold, you are the strong tower safeguarding my soul, the rock that steadies each trembling thought when I would falter or turn aside. Let me choose first the path of prayer, not as a last resort, but as the fountain from which discernment flows, for in your presence the noise of fear is made quiet, and the dry wilderness is softened by the living waters of your peace. We trust, Lord, that in every crossroads and every valley alike, you wait not as a distant judge, but as a shepherd whose rod and staff comfort, whose guidance is gentle and sure, whose voice breaks through the wilderness and calls us to rest before we arise and walk. Even when my spirit grows faint and the roads ahead appear tangled in shadow, I know you deliver me from confusion, drawing me gently beneath the shadow of your wings, where your holy stillness anchors my restless longing, and your wisdom illuminates the hidden paths I cannot see. Let the oil of your presence anoint my weary soul. Let the fire of your counsel warm what has grown cold or numb from the pressures of decision, that I might dwell secure, and move forward only as your peace goes before me. Lord, let prayer become my daily resting place, the refuge I seek before I choose the quiet groves where you whisper life into my every need and faith rises as daybreak over the valley. So if you are heavy laden today, take refuge in him. Let every decision begin beneath his wings and find resolution in the surety of his love. For in the sanctuary of his presence we discover again that still waters and steadfast hope are the portion of all who pray. Let this be your prayer today. May every crossroads lead you first to the sheltering wings of the Lord, where wisdom dwells and peace reigns as a gentle river through the wilderness of your soul. Lord, let this be my continual petition as this day dawns and every day that unfolds thereafter, that I might be led from the tumult of hurried thoughts and invited to dwell beside the still waters you have prepared, allowing your wisdom to take root in every intention, every conversation, every decision that shapes my journey. I come before you knowing that wisdom is not birthed from my own striving, nor discernment drawn only from the lessons of my past, but that every sound choice springs quietly from abiding in your presence, where anxiety dissolves like dew beneath the radiance of your counsel. Lord, let me not simply pass through moments of clarity as a traveler passing by a well in dry country, but let me linger drinking deeply of your understanding until your peace saturates my every step and your voice becomes the compass by which my days are measured. You are the refuge to whom I return when the wilderness calls, and the storms rise. You are the stronghold that transforms my hesitation into holy courage, my uncertainty into trust that is anchored in you alone. We trust, Lord, that in seeking your wisdom before we set our feet upon the path, whether it winds through the shadowed valley or the sunlit meadow, you anoint us with the oil of calm assurance, clothing our hearts in the quiet strength that bears your likeness into every encounter. Let me remember even in the small choices and unseen places that your spirit guides, that your presence attends, and that the blessing found in still waters is to carry their serenity with me wherever I go. Lord, help us to become bearers of peace, those who walk as stewards of holy listening, reflecting the light that shines not from mere knowledge, but from union with your heart. Even when haste calls, even when the world's noise clamors for my allegiance, let me be drawn again to the hidden sanctuary, where your gentleness stills the waves, and every word or deed arises from a spirit yielded to your wisdom. So let it be as the day unfolds its unknowns before me that I carry the blessing of still waters, your wisdom deep within your presence as my song, guided by your spirit through the wilderness and toward the place where all paths lead home. May this word rest in your spirit today.